I'm literally just beginning to learn what I call the EU macro version style, just solid standard ZvZ, which I've never
Okay.
bothered learning. So only question would be when do you get your third queen and when do you get your Evo chamber in the early game?
ZvZ?
Yeah.
Let's just jump to another replay. ZvZ replay.
Yeah. You can't even remember? Scarlett? You should
Well,
know
it's
this.
like you can choose. It's up to you.
You don't have a favorite one?
I mean, I'm kind of a bad person to take ZvZ advice from for like my specific build orders at least. Usually some time between 36 and 44 supply. You would make your third queen
Yeah.
in the Evo. And
Yeah.
then when your Evo is done, one thing to mention though is you want to make your roach form pretty quickly, and I think most people make it way too late outside of like the top Euro players.
Right. Just because it's too dangerous, right? Like if people do hit you with some attacks, or is it just for the wall off and the safety that offers you? Because then you can plug it with a queen, and then your queen plus like just two banelings and sixlings can kind of defend your third on their own, while the other queen covers the wall.
Yeah, so it's a combination of denying the scouting. They can't get into your main. If you have no roach horn, they can just freely run into your main with a ling, unless you have like a bunch of zerglings ready to block it. So
Right.
you deny them from scouting your layer timing, and like they don't know if you're going to be doing a roach timing. They can't scout your drone count, your main, and your natural. So they don't know if you're transferring drones from your natural to your third base, it's like as a fake. I think a good ZvZ series to watch would be Lambo vs. Cerro, the grand finals of.
Next.
Yeah. Just skip the game on Pride of Alteris because that map is dumb. But the rest of the games are pretty good, like a learning experience. I don't think there is replays released, so you'd have to watch from like Wardy's stream VOD, but
Yeah.
I think that was a really good ZvZ series. I think Lambo is like, he really knows what he's doing in ZvZ. He's one of
He's
the.
so good to study from, isn't he? I feel like he's so organized.
Yeah, let me jump into one of the Raider Restyle games. Or some
Thank
cheeses.
you, Kinetic, for the sub, mate.
Let's go Hardwire.
As
One thing to mention. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, as Mechanics said, they played a little bit more clowny, all the ZvZs in this tournament. The other day when he was talking to you, like there was a lot of carapace pushes and roach rushes. What I found funny in this finals is there was a bit more of the less committed. Like I'm gonna build 5-6 roaches and make it look like I'm doing the big carapace attack, but I'm actually just droning behind it. Whereas the Koreans, like Dark, were always all in with their their roach carapace lingbane.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the meta that's developed over the past 6 months. Is a lot of the matchup is focused around the carapace timing, where you want to deny scouting so they don't know if you're doing it, and then you can fake it or you can actually do it. Just because, well, if you even get to that point, like say someone doesn't all in by that point, which is another thing in itself. But the problem is that mutas are like completely broken in the matchup, where if you get to mutas in an even game, like say you're not behind in some way, and you didn't die to an all in, like your chance of winning the game is extremely high if you're like equal skill level as your opponent.
They're legitimately bullshit. They are so good. Like if you get
it's like
to
one
them,
of the most
it's crazy.
broken things in the game is mutas and ZvZ.
All of my wins versus like pro players in ZvZ in the last few years have just been like I got to 3-base muta and they were doing like just standard defensive 3-base roach. And I got like melee mutas, and then I'm like, oh, I can beat Denver now. I can beat like whoever now. I'm just like, because it's just like so asymmetric, like what I have to do compared to what they have to do. It's really unfair.
Yeah, I won a lot of games against Cyril doing that like a few years back in tournaments.
And that's
WCS
you're probably part of the reason why he does 55 drone Nidus Roach so often. He's like, fuck that shit. I got it all in case mutas are coming out.
Yeah. You can even go 2-base muta into links. It was a good time.
Good old 2-base muta. Nice.
Yeah. Quickly going over a ZvZ build order. I think this is a pretty standard-ish game. If you're still have my stream open. So one thing
Yeah.
to note is you always, a lot of people don't do this, but you always make 2 links as soon as your natural's done. Never skip these links. Never be greedy.
Yeah.
Don't play like a laser and skip these links.
Sometimes I build them in the main and I build the drone from the natural so it doesn't have to rally as far, but yeah.
Well, you should be playing 21 Overlord regardless, or 26 Overlord, right?
Oh, really? I still build 20 Overlord in every matchup. I'm a pleb. Oh my god.
Yeah. So you make a drone at 20.
Yeah.
So then your natural finishes, and you have 1 larva in each base, and you make Ling in the natural and Overlord in the main.
Yep. Okay.
They'll say they both do this. And unless you want to save larva, in case it's like a Ling all in, or like a 1 base all in or something. And then that's like the only scenario where 20 Overlord is better, is where you don't want to spend the next larva because you want to see when your Overlord scouts. But if you're not like wanting to play extra safe against a 1 base all in, I would always just recommend this 26 Overlord style. Where you go Queen, Ling, Overlord, and then Ling Speed, and you pull a 1 off cast.
Yeah, and you
Another
put back
thing
on
to
gas when Baneling Nest starts is what you did, right?
Or even later. Even later is fine.
Okay.
Another thing to mention is you always put 3 on gas right away.
Yeah.
Don't play it like the other matchups where you rally into gas. It's a small thing.
Ling speed's important in this matchup.
It's like a 4-second difference or something on Ling Speed, but...
Sorry to go off on a tangent. I remembered a question, because yesterday I was casting your FPV game versus Geralt from like a week ago on ladder. You had a hardware game. Anyways, if you get... and I forgot at the time, and then I think I answered the question, but I told Twitch chat I'd ask you, so I wanted to confirm. So if your natural gets blocked in ZVP, you go to the 3rd, but you immediately drop a gas as well. And that is so that you can get Ling speed straight away to shut down the adept pressure. However, because they don't know if you've committed to Ling speed or not, if the probe doesn't hang around in your main, you don't actually transfer workers onto the gas. You just rely on the fact that they've seen the gas, that they have to be respectful and they can't chrono 2 adepts across, right?
No.
Okay,
So
it was
that's
just a
probably
mistake then.
Well, normally what you do is you send your drone to your natural at 35 seconds, which is early
Yeah.
in ZVP in case you're sending to block. And then you send it in front of your natural, and if you see the probe, you go straight to the 3rd, and you go 17 hatch.
What happened in this game is you thought you could get the hatch down,
Yeah,
so you
and
went
I
back.
couldn't.
Yeah.
I think I remember it, and this is something that happens sometimes. You send the drone back, and then they barely block you, and then you have to go make 2 drones, send the thing to your 3rd, and then you go 18 hatch to the 3rd, and it's late, and then your drone is done. The drone that would normally build the gas is done too fast, so like, it just, my build was a bit messed up that game.
So the gas was just kind of like a mistake, basically.
Yeah, normally you can just rally onto gas. It's completely fine.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, yeah, okay. So I was like, no, it was a big brain. It's so funny. This shows my respect for you, Scarlett. You made a mistake, and I literally gave a big brain reasoning for it. And this was when I was brushing my teeth this morning. I was thinking about this, and I was like, oh, there's another question. I was like, oh, I think I got it. Scarlett's so smart. He sees the gas at 1 minute, 59 seconds. He knows Ling speed could finish 10 seconds faster. If he double chronos the adepts across to pressure the 3rd and like get in between the rallies, that's going to be bad because then the adepts will get surrounded by quicker Ling speed, or like you could even be Ling flooding, and sneaking Lings around the adepts. So like he has to play respectful, but because his probe doesn't stay in the main, you actually don't even bother mining the gas. You just do a macro build, but he thinks there could be Ling speed and it's so next level 300 IQ. I was like, yeah.
The one thing you gotta remember is that most of the Protoss don't know the difference with the Ling speed.
Oh, I forgot.
So it doesn't even matter if you fake it because they won't even know the difference. This is the sad part. You can't.
Maples not know. Mape the ape not know difference.
Yeah, you can't fake it because they don't check. So like, there's no point. Kind of sad.
Since 2 days ago, I had special casting some PVT with me. Now I've got you talking about pros. I can't have you two on the stream this regularly. There's too much anti-Protoss messaging. I have to get Showtime on and give a talk about Protoss to balance things out or something. We gotta
I'm sure
balance
Showtime
out.
would check. He's the kind of player that would check.
That's true. Top 5, one of the like top 5 Protoss in the world. Okay, yeah, that's what we need
He's
before
good
they
at.
notice.
He knows what he's doing with like the the defensive kind of stuff, scouting, reaction to all-ins.
Yeah.
It's strong against those kind of builds, for sure. So yeah, I was just going to say you definitely want to make 3 on gas right away in the matchup every game. Just because you always want to make the 2-lings and send them across the map. And if you have 2-lings across the map and their league speed finishes first, you're going to lose those 2-lings. And like, that's a bigger deal than saving the slight efficiency on having 2 mining gas earlier, right? So if you didn't want to make the 2-lings in the matchup, then it's much less relevant to make the 3rd guy on gas faster. But because it's always worth it to make the first 2-lings, then it's always worth it to mine the gas ASAP. So
do you ever sacrifice the
that's just the reasoning.
2-lings if the queen's not out front? Like if they're lazy with the queen positioning, will you maybe just dart up the main, try and get in, and you'll lose the lings, but like you'll see ling speed and stuff? Would you take
You mean
that?
if they're 2-basing specifically?
Even if they're going for a 3rd?
If they're going for a 3rd, there's no point because
Just no point. Okay.
like what are you scouting for?
That's true. I guess I was thinking that I would want to be getting in. No, this is really fucking baboon level thinking. It's because I've been playing people that do like 2 baseling bane timings and stuff. So I'm trying to think about covering really suboptimal play, which you don't even need to scout. You can just react when you see it leave the base. It's fine.
Like 2-base ling bane with a fake wall. Yeah, that's the thing. But like if they already are making a 3rd base, like there's nothing to scout.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're going Evo behind the main basement or something like.
Yeah,
It's
and
not-
the
it's
third
not-
the third should be down by like what 245 at the latest, right? Normally, I think.
So what you do is you make first larva at your natural makes 2-lings. Next larva of the natural makes a drone and rallies to the 3rd. And this is just how basically everybody does it. And then, well, Cyril does it a bit differently because whereas he rallies, what did he do?
Cyril.
He rallied a drone.
I think he pulls a drone from his natural now, actually. I think he's going to manually select it, right?
No. He rallied this drone, I think, to the 3rd. Or most people rally this drone to the 3rd, make the hatchery on 30. Cyril rallied this drone to the 3rd and made the hatchery on 32, which is... It's a fine way to do it. It might be slightly more efficient. I would probably trust Cyril's knowledge here more than Rainer's. In terms of the efficiency, we can just check quickly. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Most people go 30 hatch, 32 hatches. It's a really small difference.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to do either. I think you could probably just copy Cyril. It's fine. So, and then you always take your 2-lings and you just right-click their 3rd base if they make one.
Yeah.
And the reason you do this is because they're forced to make 2-lings as soon as they see your 2-lings. So they make 2-lings, run them across the map, and then they see your 2-lings pop, and then they make 2 more lings to defend their 3rd base. So Cyril makes 4, Rainer makes 2. Fine. You can... Some people send their queen out as well as making 2-lings, just so they are less concerned about the micro battle here, like 2-lings versus 2-lings. But, I mean, it's probably a bit suboptimal because you have to be concerned about getting back in time to spend your next energy.
Yeah.
And then you make your Bailey nest on 32 supply, always.
Do you sometimes swap between earlier creep tumor on the natural and double inject on the natural? Do you ever like swap between those two, or is it always you prefer?
So you always do inject first, every game.
Okay.
And we can talk about that a bit later into the build order. Because I think it's more relevant, especially for like the non-top players. Since the patch, it's more relevant to get the creep tumor down in the matchup because you're not able to chance yourself creep.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned about defending Lingbane pressure, then it's definitely relevant to have a creep tumor, especially since the patch.
Yeah.
So first off, I just want to talk about these 2-lings because the reason you always hit the hatch rather than going straight to the natural. Because if they have a 3rd base, you don't need to run them into the main, right? And you don't really need to scout what's at the wall immediately. And the reason this is relevant is because if they skip the lings, if they're greedy, they didn't make 2 lings when they saw your 2 lings, then you get a lot of damage on the hatchery, and you can reactively do a ling bane pressure. And then their hatchery will have taken a lot of damage from your first 2 lings, and it's quite likely that you can kill the hatchery with a ling bane pressure.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But that does stack up. Even 300-400 damage on it's pretty big. And,
Yes.
and sometimes people get like 600 damage with like 2
Exactly.
lings. It's crazy.
So this is exactly why as soon as you see their 2 lings, you have to make 2 lings reactively and send them straight to your third. So you'll see they both do this. I think Rainer made them in the main base. So he's going to take more damage than he wants to on the third. And T took, like, it was like a couple hundred damage almost. Not like insane amount of damage. They both took a decent amount. Charles has lower HP a bit because he started it. Maybe not that much longer later, but.
Yeah.
So they both took a bit of damage. And Cyril, I think this game he did do a ling bane pressure. He didn't get that much damage on, but he decides to do ling bane pressure because, you know, sometimes you do in pro games regardless. But
Yeah, you got to
I'd
mix
say,
it in.
like, if you do a lot of damage and you don't mind microing ling bane, I think it's on ladder especially. That's the good time where you want to practice doing ling bane pressure is if you get a lot of damage on. So
Yeah.
generally, people end up with, they make 2 Zerglings and they make 2 more defensively, and then they make maybe 2 more for when their enemy's ling speed is finishing, just in case their enemy's doing a ling bane pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to go up to probably about 6 Zerglings at the moment defensively, plus the 2 scouting ones when
Yeah,
the
that's
Baneley
fine,
Nest
it's
is
fine.
about halfway done, which is going to time out with this. Obviously, Bane Nest should finish at the same moment that Ling Speed finishes. The Bane Nest timing, I think a lot of people are really sloppy on at the moment. And they're letting their third get cancelled from like Ling Floods, just like way too much. Like Rogue especially has been very bad about it. So I think like for me, I used to think 2-minute 50 Bane Nest, but now I think 2:45 is just like a little bit safer and better, just to make sure you can morph those Banelings the moment you see the Ling Flood coming. Yeah.
So they both made 245 this game. So yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know from the timing, but 32 supply is the standard timing to be safe.
Yeah,
So
I just do
yes,
it like
245.
right after the base goes down. It's like I build the 30 base, then I build a couple drones, and then while the drone's moving over to build the Bane Nest. So yeah, about 32. I didn't actually think I should write that down because it's like one of those things that's subconscious, but it should
it's
actually be set.
It never changes again. So it's not
Yeah.
It's not like you scout something. If they have a third base, you make a Bailey Nest at 32 supply.
Yeah. I think
can
I've just
tell
been
you-
inconsistent with it because like some games I do
Yeah.
it on 32, some I do it on like 29, like right after the third hatch goes
okay.
down, and it should always be the same because otherwise
It
you're
should
just
always
like,
be the same, yes.
hey, why is my Baneley Nest a few seconds later this game? And like the reaction's a bit different, so it just messes with your consistency.
So one thing I wanted to mention is you have the option of skipping the Bailey Nest in ZvZ. And
Yeah.
this is always has some amount of risk to it. But I would never recommend doing it if we have to go back earlier. This goes back to the start. So you both make 2 lings, right?
Yeah.
If they make 2 lings, and you make 2 lings, and they don't send the lings home to because some people, especially like players on the ladder, you know, the non-pro gamers, you both make 2 lings, and then they'll just pull these 2 lings back to defend your 2 lings because
Yeah.
they don't want to make more lings.
Yeah.
And if they do this, they're never going to be able to scout what you make in the wall until significantly later in the game. So that's the only time I would ever recommend skipping Bailey Nest if you want to mix that build in sometimes where you go like straight Roachborn.
Right. I hadn't thought of
Is
it like
if-
that. That's
Is
curious.
if they don't get the lings across. Because generally
Yeah.
what happens is, I didn't go through the scouting aspect of this. So you right click their hatchery. And then the 2 lings come. And when they get here, generally what you're supposed to do, I don't know.
Run
if they
away a
both do
bit
this
ahead of
this
time
game.
so they can't see where you go, right?
No.
No?
Well, like, you could do that if you want to do link main pressure.
Because then
But
you can
generally what
you
you
can
do-
kind of threaten the Bane pressure. Like it keeps
Yeah,
them
yeah,
guessing.
yeah.
So that's what I like about the Overlord sees them. So if you run to left here, get out of vision of the hatchery, then run south or whatever, then you can
Sure.
break vision, and it just makes them a little more worried potentially.
Yeah. If you're on the ladder, what I would recommend doing a lot of the time, though, is as soon as like they get here, so you can't hit the hatchery anymore, but you go and you check their wall off and make sure they have a baneling nest there. Because if they don't make a baneling nest, you see a roach warren or something, you just do link bane pressure on their third.
Yeah.
Again. And you do it reactively. Because if they skip the roach warren, it's so hard for them to defend the third base. I mean, if they skip the baneling nest, even if they go straight roach warren, it's so hard for them to defend the third.
Yeah.
And if you cancel it, basically no matter what, you're ahead.
What
Even
if
if
they're
you
just
did a big
hiding the
investment-
baneling nest in the main base, Scarlett?
It's so clowny though, because you need the
Yeah.
wall off in the matchup. You need the wall off. You can't play the matchup
You need the wall off, yeah.
reasonably without a wall off. So, I mean, it's true. Lane main pressure is fine regardless, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if you want to do it reactively, the situation is if you get a lot of damage on the hatchery, or if you see like a no baneling nest or like a roach warren here,
So,
or say you see a
scenario,
third queen.
You see nothing there except one queen on the natural. And it turns, and you don't know. So you're like, okay, I'm going Ling Bane pressure. I'm going to build
Yeah.
maybe 22 Zerglings in total, right? Including the couple I've already got out, right? And start droning behind that. But then they flood out with Lings even slightly faster than your Lings flood out. So they're actually doing the, the 25 Zergling pressure straight into the Roach Warren as that moves out. That kind of build order.
Yeah.
Do you try to keep pressuring, or do you just swap into defense mode and just add drones and say, it's
could
fine,
just
we'll just defend?
Keep making links and kill their third.
Just keep making Lings, kill their third, leave a baneling or two at home. And as long as you
'Cause
keep your third alive, your natural up, kill their third, they're stuck 2 base roach versus you on 3 base. So you should be good, right?
3 base link bane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've tried this so many times to skip the baneling nest. Like, I'm the kind of player that wants to mix in the other builds, right?
Yeah.
And I've just found it's not possible
Yeah.
to do it in a consistent way. Where, like, ling pressure into roach, unless you're planning on doing like a timing with the roaches, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're just going for a big committed attack with the roaches, it's not worth it.
Yeah, like I know Rogue has like a build. He'll do that where he does the Ling pressure, goes Roach Warren, and he actually drops a Baneling nest as well. And it's like it's a Roachling Bane all in, but it's like the Roaches
I
build
lost him.
first.
I lose to him doing this.
It's quite a surprising push because you're like, wait, what? You've even got Banelings with this, but didn't you skip
You
the
need the
Baneling
banelings
nest?
is the thing. You can't skip the banelings to a pressure. The one exception is if the map is really, really short. But say on
because then the
Lightshade,
roaches get there so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Like on Lightshade, the meta became a lot of the times if both players would take the triangle base, right? And if they both take the triangle base, especially on a map like Lightshade, it's a very short rush distance.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the kind of situation where it's viable, but I'd say it's very rare for it to be viable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're doing a Roachling pressure, it will lose to pure Ling Bane almost every time.
Yeah.
If you have if you do the quick one, say you go Ling pressure with a Roach Warren, and then you do a follow-up Roachling pressure, which is the only way the build is good. I'd say the build is still not good because I shouldn't say even that's the only scenario where like it makes sense to the build. It still doesn't work in my experience because they can just make a lot of Lings and some Banelings, and you can't reinforce with roaches in this kind of push. You can only reinforce with Lings. So as soon as they make enough Lings to overwhelm the roaches, the Banelings just zone out their Zerglings, and like there's nothing you can do. You
Yeah.
just lose all the roaches for free. You lose the game.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how roaches are so good versus lings when you've got upgrades and a big ball and they're all standing back to back, right? Because the lings can't really get surface area, but you've got 8 or 10 roaches and lings just annihilate them if they're not in a pocket.
Yeah, even with like +1, 8 or 10 roaches is not really enough in a pressure. Like defensively, where you can get really good areas like between a mineral line at the third, you can defend with that. But if you're trying to attack them with 8 roaches or 10 roaches with +1, it's still only going to lose to Zerglings.
Yeah.
Even if it's fine cost efficient wise, like the way the builds work out, it's still not worth it.
Yeah.
So this is just some early game details I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think that like kind of fills that out pretty well. I guess
And I could talk a bit about like the Evo timing and the third queen timing.
yeah, let's just take a look at what these two guys do and see.
So this is a bit different and everything's going to be slightly delayed because Cyril did do a ling main pressure.
Yeah.
And the way you do it kind of is you just, with your first injects popping, you make a round of lings. Generally, you try and run 2 banelings into the third base. You have 2 banelings to try and zone off lings from the defending
We
their third.
kind of get to see Raynor's standard build, right? Because he only sees the lings at like 330. So he actually, I think, does he build his queen reactively upon seeing that pressure? Or is it just, I think it's starting right around the time he spots it moving out anyway.
He does it reactively.
Okay.
And because the thing's already moved. And the way I could also tell you how I know it's reactively is because he starts it in the main base. And this is because you pull the queen from the main base to help defend. Whereas if you're starting a third queen normally, you would start at the natural. You wouldn't start in the main if you don't need to defend. And what you do, generally, you start it around now regardless, right? It's not like you started it that much sooner than normal. The Evo chamber is a standard timing. The third queen is fairly standard. Just the one thing I would recommend is as soon as your queen pops from the natural, some people would say before the patch, they would, after the second inject on the natural, so let's skip a bit forward. After this inject, they would send this queen to the third.
Yeah.
And then they would make the queen here and then just do 3 injects and have no creep.
Yeah, I've always called that the just most ridiculous shitbag greed ever. When I saw that in the meta, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that just seems so crazy because that queen, I get the inject's nice, but the queen's isolated out there. You've got no creep. You can't move between. I don't know.
I thought Cyril played this for so long, though.
I felt so weird. I felt like if you're Cyril, you can handle it, but I don't know. It feels like it's very finicky.
Yeah, I would always recommend to just, as soon as the queen finishes, you drop a creep to him and send to the third. Your third queen finishes.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to defend stuff. And you can even go past third queen, past 3 queens if they're doing like, say you still keep seeing more lings coming. You can just make another queen. It doesn't matter. Fine. So, and then the roach warren timing. Generally, you start it as right after your upgrade.
Yeah.
And then it just, like the builds diverge a lot more, where maybe you're making a layer quickly to go into mutas. Stuff like that. You don't know when you're taking your gas. Maybe you're going to a carapace timing. But regardless, you kind of want to start the roach warren after you start your Evo. And if you watch Lambo play against Cyril in the tournament, Lambo likes to make more lings early on before the roach warren starts, just so that he can deny lings from running by his wall off even before he gets the roach warren.
Yeah.
He doesn't want any lings to get in because he has everyone has builds where they go layer before Evo upgrade.
Right.
For mutas specifically. Well, Dark is crazy and he just does it regardless, but most people for mutas specifically. And then there's builds where you can make a roach warren earlier behind like the natural mirror line or up here for an earlier roach ling main timing, and that's one where you would cancel the upgrade. Right? You start the roach warren, you make your roaches, you move out, you cancel the upgrade, you make banelings. So if you want to do a quick one with no upgrade, you generally hide the roach warren, and you try and deny the lings the lings from running by having your queen and 8 zerglings here.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it for early game ZvZ.
No, I think that's more than enough. Today. If I can just get my natural saturated really quickly, get the third up, get the third queen on time with minimal baneling zergling commitment, not overreact too bad against a zergling pressure, then we should be good. Mm-hmm. So say you've got actually, this is a good example, right? Because it's a ling bane pressure. You don't know if it's banelings. It could just be speedlings. But actually, I think they both scouted the baneling nest, so they both know. So he makes 4 banelings, does Raynor. Obviously, you want to leave 1 guarding the natural or the main ramp, potentially, whatever. And then you want to try to move over to your third with 2 queens. You pull your queens to the front, chuck them on the defense key. Say, I would normally have 6 zerglings at home, right? So I would still probably morph... I might not morph a full 4 banelings. I might only morph 3 to start, and I'd leave 1 on my main ramp, and then 2 would kind of skirmish at the front. And I'd probably build 8 more zerglings. Or maybe 10 more zerglings. If you see a big flood of lings coming out, how many Zerglings do you think is a good number?
Just spend all your larvae you have, right? On Zerglings. Fine. Like, you're not gonna have an insane amount of larvae, so just, spend all your larvae on lings. Make some banelings. 3 is fine, 4
You'd
is
make
fine.
16? Even 16 though? Like, would you keep making lings kind of thing? Or.
Well, you're never gonna have that much larva, is the thing.
Yeah. But like,
And
if
the
the
reason that
fight's
is-
dragging out, like, you just basically build like up to about 10 more Zerglings, then go back to droning no matter what, roughly, right? Maximum 12
And
or 14.
I don't mind making a 4th queen if it feels like they're doing a more committed one. I like having more queens.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be sad about having a 4th queen in the matchup, regardless.
I mean,
even if the game
the
goes
queens
later.
are the efficiency, right? And they're so good
Yeah.
at just getting so efficient, whereas the Ling Bane is just more micro intensive. I mean, because essentially the core of the build is the queens are going to kill shit efficiently, and your banelings just stop them from killing the queens. And if they're dumb enough or mess up their micro, then the banelings also kill stuff. But otherwise, the banelings are just dancing around the queens saying, hey, you can't really engage. The queens are going to pick off units steadily. You need to either back off or run into the banelings.
Yeah. And on the defense, you don't want to have the banelings right next to each other, just like, because
Spread
two
them out.
banelings, sniping 2 banelings is generally good for the aggressor.
Yeah.
So you want to spread them out a bit.
You want to keep them separated.
Yes. Yes. And as you were talking about earlier, with the fact that they can run away with the 2 lings,
Yeah.
you kind of want to, check the kind of direction they're running in.
Yeah.
If they're just running straight out, because they could be making into banelings. So you can use these 2 lings to, try and say they move out a bit faster. You can send like a ling here around if you have the APM, or a ling around here as well.
But if I'm doing a Ling Bane attack, you wouldn't find mine, because you know where I hide them, Scarlett? You see, remember the Overlord? I would have slightly further to the right, so I'd have more time to react.
Yeah, and
So
then you put it
I
like
would
here.
run to the left, and then I'd go up and right, and I'd hide behind the hatch.
Here?
You know it. You know where. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on the right side. I'd go actually pretty close to the natural and just hope there's no Overlord. If there's an Overlord nearby, I might get spotted. I'd probably go like, somewhere up to the right, somewhere like a little further north, closer to where you were initially, but yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere
like a nice
up
thing
there.
to do is, it's really actually good to morph in there.
Yeah.
Say you morph 2 here and 2 here. And then you send your lings to the 3rd, right? And then these banelings come down and they can zone out the enemy. And it's if you get them morphed really near their 3rd, out of their vision, it can be very hard because they don't always have the banelings ready exactly in time to defend. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to morph them. Generally not to run into the natural though, because their queens are going to be coming in that direction regardless. So like that's why you run them from this angle, from the 4th base location into the natural. Then the ones morphed at their 3rd base would generally be for zoning at the 3rd base.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. Seriously, like, this has been so long. Oh my God, I've just stolen so much of your time. What the hell?
It's fine. That's fine.
Scarlett's chat. I'm sorry. I know you want to see her destroy 14 PROTOSS players in a row on NA ladder, but thank you, Scarlett's chat, for letting me borrow her. Thank you, everybody.